The golden glow of the setting sun bathed the empty road in soft light. Dust danced in the air, stirred only by the gentle evening breeze. A silver luxury car stood quietly by the roadside, its sleek frame strangely out of place in the barren countryside. Please like and subscribe to my channel for more contents like this. Nadine Carter leaned against the vehicle, visibly pregnant and sweating despite the cool air. She gripped her phone, waving it in different directions in a desperate search for signal. "Please work," she muttered, her voice cracking. A sharp cramp twisted in her belly, stealing her breath. Panic set in. She wasn't just stranded, her baby was coming early. Across the road, a boy trudged along the gravel path, his shoes barely holding together. Jaden Cole, just 12 years old, carried a ragged bag slung over his shoulder, filled with scrap pieces and things he'd picked up throughout the day. He had no home, no parents, only his instincts and stubborn will to survive. As he walked, his sharp eyes noticed the shining car and the distressed woman beside it. He hesitated, then crossed cautiously. "Ma'am," he called out gently. Nadine tensed, sizing him up quickly. Thin, dirty clothes, wild hair, but alert eyes. "Do you need help?" Nadine hesitated. Jaden didn't look dangerous, but her fear made her wary. Still, she didn't have much of a choice. "I ran out of gas," she said breathlessly, "and I think something's wrong. I think the baby's coming." Jaden's eyes widened. "There's a cabin not far from here," he offered, pointing to a narrow trail. "I used to sleep there. We might find help, or at least shelter." Nadine looked up and down the deserted road. Nothing. No cars, no people. Just her, this strange boy, and a looming emergency. She nodded slowly, then took his arm. "Help me walk." As they made their way into the woods, Nadine leaned heavily on Jaden, each step sending fresh waves of pain through her body. "I don't even know your name," she said between gritted teeth. "Jaden," he answered simply. "I used to live with my mom, but she died. She didn't make it when she had my little sister." Nadine's heart ached at his words. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You're brave, Jaden." He looked down shyly but didn't reply. Suddenly, Nadine's knees buckled, and she collapsed, clutching her stomach. "It's coming," she cried. Jaden looked around wildly and spotted the cabin. Jaden helped Nadine to her feet and guided her inside the abandoned wooden shack. Dust floated in the air. Cobwebs clung to the corners, but it was dry and sheltered. Jaden laid Nadine on a blanket made from his coat and rushed outside to fetch water from a nearby stream. When he returned, her screams had intensified. "I need you," Nadine gasped. "I can't do this alone." Fear gripped Jaden, but he nodded. "Okay, I'm here." Hours passed. Cries echoed through the cabin. Finally, just before midnight, a baby's first cry filled the air. Jaden, shaking, placed the infant in her arms. Nadine looked down at the tiny baby wrapped in Jaden's makeshift cloth, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You saved us," she whispered weakly, her voice barely audible. Jaden tried to respond, but before he could speak, Nadine's eyes fluttered shut. Panic surged through him. "Miss Nadine," he called, shaking her gently. She didn't respond. Her chest rose and fell slowly, but her skin looked pale. Jaden sat back, clutching the baby close, unsure of what to do. Outside, the moonlight cast long shadows across the clearing. He knew he couldn't just sit there, he had to act. Jaden laid the baby down on a folded corner of his coat and searched the cabin for anything useful. The place was nearly bare, just broken chairs and an old, musty rug. He grabbed a piece of wood, broke it into strips, and tried to make a fire in the corner using a lighter he'd found days earlier. The warmth helped, but Nadine still looked too weak. "You've lost too much blood," Jaden muttered to himself. He ran back outside, heart pounding, to get more water. At the stream, he dipped his tin can and paused. Two glowing eyes stared back from the brush. A mangy, stray dog growled from the shadows, its teeth bared. Jaden's hands shook. but he couldn't afford to spill the water. "Go away!" he yelled, grabbing a stick and waving it. The dog snarled, but eventually backed off. Jaden exhaled shakily, clutching the can close to his chest. Back at the cabin, he rushed to Nadine's side, lifting her head gently and pouring water into her mouth. Her eyes flickered open. "The baby," she whispered hoarsely. "She's okay," Jaden assured her, "but you need to stay awake." Nadine gave a faint nod. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. Jaden hesitated, sitting back on his heels. "Because no one helped my mom when she needed it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't save her, but maybe I can save you." Nadine's eyes filled with tears. She reached out and touched his arm. "You already have." As the first light of dawn crept through the cracks in the cabin walls, Jaden knew they couldn't stay there much longer. Nadine needed real medical help. He carefully placed the baby, whom Nadine had quietly named Maya, in her mother's arms. "We have to go," he said, rising to his feet. Jaden helped Nadine walk, supporting her weight with all his strength. The journey through the woods was slow and painful. Every few steps, Nadine had to stop to catch her breath. Jaden gritted his teeth, determined. "We'll make it," he whispered more to himself than her. After an hour, she collapsed completely. Her eyes fluttered, and her grip on Maya weakened. Jaden panicked. "No, don't close your eyes. Stay with me." He set Maya down gently beside Nadine and ran toward the road. As he emerged from the woods, a large truck came barreling down the path. Jaden ran into the road, waving both arms desperately. The truck screeched to a halt just in time. The driver, a gruff man in his late 50s, leaning out the window with suspicion. "What the heck are you doing, kid?" he barked. Jaden ran to the door, breathless. "Please, there's a woman. She's hurt, and her baby. We need help." The man narrowed his eyes, taking in Jaden's dirt-streaked face and tattered clothes. "You trying to scam me?" he growled. Jaden shook his head furiously. "No, I swear." But the driver scoffed and pulled away, leaving Jaden in a cloud of dust. He stood frozen for a moment, fists clenched, heart sinking. But then he turned and sprinted back to Nadine and Maya. When Jaden reached them, Nadine was still breathing, but her skin was clammy and her lips had turned pale. He knelt beside her, whispering urgently, "Hold on, please." A few minutes later, the sound of another engine grew louder. A smaller car slowed as it approached and came to a stop. A woman with kind eyes and streaks of gray in her hair jumped out. "Oh, my goodness!" she gasped, rushing toward them. "What happened?" Jaden choked back tears. "She had the baby last night. We've been trying to find help." The woman, Mrs. Evelyn Tate, nodded briskly. "Let's get her in the car. Quick!" The ride to the hospital was a blur. Jaden sat in the back, holding Maya while Mrs. Tate drove as fast as she could. Nurses were waiting at the emergency entrance, rushing Nadine away on a stretcher. Jaden stood there, stunned, still cradling Maya. "Come on, sweetheart," Mrs. Tate said gently, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Let's wait together." Inside, hours passed before a doctor finally emerged. "She's stable," he announced. "It was close, but she'll be okay." Jaden let out a long breath, sinking into the waiting room chair. He looked down at Maya, still asleep in his arms, and whispered, "We made it." In the days that followed, Jaden refused to leave Nadine's side. He slept in a folding chair beside her hospital bed, bottle-fed Maya, and made sure the nurses treated Nadine with kindness. Everyone who passed through the maternity ward seemed to notice the small boy with the quiet strength and big heart. Mrs. Tate stayed nearby too, bringing meals and clean clothes, acting like the grandmother he never had. When Nadine finally woke, her voice was hoarse. "Jaden," she murmured, "you're still here." Jaden nodded quickly, gripping her hand. "I said I'd take care of you. I meant it." Nadine recovered slowly, and the doctors eventually released her with a warning to rest and follow up regularly. Mrs. Tate insisted on driving them home, though home was no longer the life Nadine once knew. Her ex-husband, Vincent Carter, a powerful man, had locked up her accounts after she'd left him. She explained everything to Jaden one quiet evening. He wants control. He doesn't even care about Maya. He just doesn't want me to be free. Jaden's jaw tightened. We won't let him win. Nadine gave him a sad smile. You talk like you're twice your age. Jaden shrugged. Sometimes I feel like I am. Their new life was far from easy. The apartment Nadine moved into was small and in need of repairs. Bills piled up quickly. Still, Jaden stepped up without complaint, washing dishes, rocking Maya to sleep, even fixing a leaky pipe in the kitchen. One day, while folding baby clothes, Nadine looked over at him. Why do you stay? She asked quietly. Jaden glanced at her, surprised. Because you're the first person who made me feel like I matter. Her eyes welled with tears. You matter more than you know. She paused, then added softly, You've become family to me. Word of their situation eventually reached Logan Reed, an old friend of Nadine's who had once admired her strength from afar. Logan visited their apartment in a dark suit that looked far too expensive for the neighborhood. You look different, he said, stepping inside. Nadine laughed softly. That's because I am. She told him the whole story, Jaden, the birth, the hospital. Logan turned to Jaden, extending a hand. You're a good kid. We need more people like you in this world. Jaden flushed, unsure what to say. Logan looked back at Nadine. Let me help. Not as a favor, just as someone who believes in you. With Logan's help, Nadine found part-time work at a small boutique downtown. Meanwhile, Logan helped Jaden enroll in school and made sure Maya had everything she needed. The three of them began forming something solid, a life built from scratch but rooted in love. One day, Nadine sat beside Jaden on the balcony, watching Maya nap in a sunbeam. You know, she said, I used to think I was alone in the world, but then I met you. Jaden looked at her, then nodded. You saved me too. She reached over and took his hand. Then let's never be alone again. The weeks turned into months. Nadine excelled at the boutique, winning the trust of her boss and earning a promotion. Jaden flourished in school, and his teachers were amazed by his maturity and kindness. Maya took her first steps in their tiny living room, giggling as Jaden held out his hands. One night, Nadine sat beside him and handed him a small wrapped box. What's this? He asked. Open it, she said. Inside was a key and a small chain that read, Welcome home. Jaden blinked, confused. What's this for? It's yours, Nadine said. This apartment, this life, we built it together. Jaden looked at the key in his hand, then back at Nadine. You mean, I belong here? She smiled, eyes shining. You've always belonged, Jaden. I just needed time to realize I couldn't do this without you. Tears burned at the corners of his eyes. I never thought I'd have a family again. Nadine wrapped an arm around his shoulders, pulling him close. Well, now you do. In the next room, Maya stirred in her crib, letting out a soft coo. Jaden looked toward the sound, heart full. For the first time in his life, he wasn't surviving, he was living. And he was home. Life slowly settled into a beautiful routine. Each morning began with Maya's laughter and the scent of Nadine's coffee. Jaden would prepare his schoolwork while Nadine got ready for her shift at the boutique. Despite the lingering shadows of the past, their home was filled with light and laughter. Neighbors started to take notice of Jaden, the polite, dependable boy, always holding the baby or helping carry groceries. One elderly neighbor even stopped Nadine on the stairwell one afternoon. That boy of yours, she said with a warm smile, he's special. You're both lucky to have each other. Nadine nodded, her heart full. I know. But peace was fragile. One afternoon, a letter arrived addressed to Nadine in Vincent Carter's sharp, cold handwriting. Inside was a formal notice. He was petitioning the court for visitation rights to Maya. Nadine's hands shook as she read it aloud. He's still trying to control us, she said bitterly. Jaden stood in the doorway, silent but tense. What do we do? Nadine looked up, fear in her eyes. We fight, she said softly, but this time we don't do it alone. She called Logan immediately, who assured her, let him try. He won't win this round. Not with the truth on our side. The court hearing arrived quicker than expected. Nadine sat with Logan on one side, Maya nestled against her chest. Jaden sat behind them, hands clenched, remembering how powerless he once felt. But this time things were different. Logan presented evidence of Vincent's past coercion, including financial manipulation and psychological harassment. A social worker testified on Nadine's behalf, praising her stability and devotion. When it was Jaden's turn to speak, he stood tall. I watched her fight to survive and love that baby with everything she had. She didn't give up on Maya or me. She's the best mom I've ever seen. The judge took a long pause before delivering the verdict. Given Mr. Carter's past actions and lack of demonstrated parental interest, she said, the court denies his petition for visitation. Miss Carter retains full legal custody of Maya Carter. Nadine gasped, tears rushing to her eyes. Jaden grabbed her hand as Logan let out a satisfied breath. Vincent stormed out without a word, his mask of power finally cracked. That evening, back home, Nadine lit a single candle and held Maya close. It's over, she whispered. Jaden stood by the window, watching the sky turn amber. No, he said with a grin. It's just beginning. On Maya's first birthday, their small apartment buzzed with joy. Mrs. Tate brought homemade cupcakes. Logan arrived with balloons and a tiny rocking horse. Neighbors filled the space with laughter and well wishes. Jaden watched it all from the hallway, soaking in the warmth that once felt impossible. Nadine approached him, holding out a small envelope. It's something I've been working on, she said shyly. Inside was an official adoption form, Jaden's name printed clearly beneath hers. Only if you want to, she added. Jaden's voice shook. I do. He pulled her into a hug as Maya giggled nearby. And just like that, the boy who had once been forgotten became a son, finally, forever home. Like and subscribe to my channel for more contents like this, and let us know where you are watching from under the comment section.